Section 8.4 is all about transportation. Internal improvements are going to cause debates within Congress, primarily on how are they going to pay for it. We have the expansion of roads, canals, steamboat industry, which are going to use the canals, railroads themselves. There's expansion of transportation, which is going to enable capitalism to grow in America. So we're going to look at all of these different parts and how they played a part in the 1800s to help change American society. The transportation revolution, as you can see here by this first set of charts, faster travel equals more expansion. Cities and trade goods could be expanded much quicker. So you can see in the first one in 1800, to get from New York to New Orleans would take about 5 weeks. But as travel times are going to change, the expansion of steamboats and the railroad system, to get from New York to New Orleans now takes about 5 days. So it really cuts that down. And with that, that's going to allow the expansion of goods. Goods are going to be cheaper to transport. It's going to be cheaper for the American person to purchase those items. So first we're going to look at the National Road. And you can see in this picture, the National Road goes from Cumberland, Maryland, all the way to Vandalia, Illinois. Eventually, this will be expanded to St. Louis as it grows. It's also known as the Cumberland Road. In 1837, it's going to reach Vandalia, Illinois. Congress will go back and forth on how they should pay for it. Under Henry Clay's American system, he will put forth the idea that only those who use that part of the road should have to pay for it. Therefore, the national government isn't paying for it. So each state would pay for their area. So, for example, this area from Indiana, let's go backwards, from Terre Haute to Richmond in Indiana, then Indiana would pay for that part of the national road. Then the states are going to pay for their own upkeep. This is going to be a big problem with that of the national road going forward, because certain states don't want to take care of their area. They want the national government to do it because it is a national federal road. So that's going to come up quite a lot in the next few presidents that we talk about. Next, we have that of the boating system, steamboats. Flatboats traveled in one direction, and initially what they would do is they would be created at the beginning of the Mississippi River. We'll use the Mississippi River as an example, and they will travel down the Mississippi River. When they get to New Orleans, they're dismantled and they're used to make other things. Steamboats are going to change this. The Clermont is going to be our first steamboat. The cost of shipping is going to change from around $100 to $5 to get something to be traveled. In 1807, it began with Robert Fulton. And remember, in Section 7, I talked about Gibbons versus Ogden, that Supreme Court case. And it's all with about the Fulton Steamboat Company. Fulton is going to secure that monopoly with New York, and of course that's going to be deemed unconstitutional. You can't do that when you're traveling out of state. It's the most important form of transportation between 1820 and 1850. Water transport is the fastest and cheapest to get goods to market. So it really becomes a point where water transport becomes very important. So that will lead to a rise in the canal system, as you can see here. Water transportation is much cheaper than ground transportation. The Erie Canal is the most profitable of all of those, and the Erie Canal is this upper brown line here in New York. Began in 1817, and it cut the transportation costs by about 95%, so that $100 to $5. It was finished in 1825, And in the end, it's 364 miles long. It will be enlarged in 1834 and again during the American Civil War in 1862. This will lead to a national canal boom. So there's going to be lots of canals that are going to be built. And you can see in this picture all of these canals that are going to be built. One of the next important ones will be this one, Illinois and Michigan, where it's going to link the Great Lakes with that of the Mississippi River. And with the formation of that, it makes it a point where you could get on a boat in New York and you could circumvent the entire part of the eastern part of the United States and make it all the way to New York without even stepping on land. So canals become super, super important. Eventually, over 3,000 miles of canal will be built, and they will be replaced with that of the railroad as it becomes very important. So railroads between 1850 and 1860 are going to really be built. In 1825, we have our first steam engine trail in England. So England is going to start it. And then 1830, they're going to start the first track in the U.S. It's only 23 miles long, but within 20 years, we're going to go from 23 miles to over 30,000 miles of track. It will replace the canal system as the most used mode of transportation. Congress is going to get involved, and they're going to start regulating that of transportation and canals, because there's going to be companies that are going to do their best to really cheat their customers. And I'll talk about that more later. With the expansion of transportation, we have the expansion of that of postal services. The Postal Act of 1792 will establish 75 postal locations. By 1830, we have 8,000. By 1860, over 28,000 post offices throughout that of the United States. Postal service from the Mississippi River westward. Mail takes about half the time from New England to the Midwest, so they can get things into the Western territories much faster. Two main groups that are going to form to help move the mail. We have Wells Fargo, established in 1852. They're going to join other groups to create the Overland Mail Company, and that's St. Louis to San Francisco. So that is one route of mail. Now, the other one is the Pony Express. It will be established in 1860, and it will go from St. Joseph's, Missouri to Sacramento, California. So it's two separate mail routes, and they're competing, but not really competing. As long as the mail is getting delivered, then they are being successful. So that's about all we have for transportation. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your quiz, quiz 8 on American expansion.